What is a preference? It seems like such a silly question, right? I mean, everyone knows what a preference is. Or do they? I constantly hear people making statements about their dating preferences. Some people like tall, short, slim, thick, voluptuous, dark, light, black, white. The list is endless. Everyone is entitled to have a preference. But what if your preference isn't really a preference? Let me give you an example. The rapper Kodak Black said he doesn't like dark-skinned black women. He only likes light-skinned women. Now, many people, as well as Kodak Black, said that people shouldn't be mad at him, since when it's all said and done, that's his preference. Light-skinned women are his preference. But what if I told you that actually him liking light-skinned women and disliking dark-skinned women when it comes to dating is not a preference? Firstly, let's look at the definition for the word preference. The dictionary says a greater liking for one alternative over another or others. Some of the synonyms are leaning, penchant, and fondness. Let me make this even simpler. A preference means that you like something a little more than something else. It doesn't mean that you like something and dislike the other. The clue is in the word itself. Preference, prefer. You prefer something, which implies that you also like the other thing, whatever that thing may be. For example, I like both orange juice and mango juice. However, I have a preference for mango juice. I still like orange juice, and I'll drink orange juice, but I don't like it as much as I like mango juice. I prefer mango juice over orange juice. I'll drink orange juice, but if given the option to choose, there's a good chance that I might pick mango juice. But the way people talk about preference incorrectly is the way I feel about onions. I won't eat onions. I can't stand them. I hate them. Now, if someone said, well, that's your preference, they would be wrong because I don't prefer something a little more than onions. I don't like onions at all. I exclude onions from my diet. It's not a preference. But remember that word I just used, exclude. Keep it in mind. It's going to be very helpful. When someone says they don't date someone based on a particular trait, whatever that trait may be, that's not a preference because they are letting you know that they exclude people with those traits. And in order for it to be a preference, they have to like that trait also. If someone says they only date or like people with a certain trait, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, that's also not a preference. That is what is known as a mandate. When you only date exclusively based on a particular trait, you have made your standards for dating mandatory. It is compulsory that a person fits this particular standard. So when a man says he doesn't like dark-skinned women, he prefers light-skinned women, that's not his preference. He has excluded dark-skinned women from his dating pool, and he exclusively dates light-skinned women. It is mandatory for him that he dates a light-skinned woman. It's compulsory. It's a requirement for him. It's also known as a prerequisite. But one thing it is not, is it's definitely not a preference. Let me use myself as an example to make it easier. I have never dated a white woman or an Asian woman in my life. I've only ever dated black women. I've dated black women of all shades and all nationalities. Caribbean, African, African-American, Afro-Latina, light-skinned, brown-skinned, dark-skinned, and all the shades in between. I have had white women in the past get angry at me for who I date. I've had people defend me and say that me dating black women is simply my preference. No one should be angry about it. Now, it is very true that no one should be angry about who I choose to date. But to say that me dating and being in a relationship with black women is a preference is incorrect. If you say I have a preference for black women, you're also saying that I must also be attracted to or also date other races of women. Because remember, a preference means you have a greater liking. And in order to have a greater liking, you need to also like the other thing. Me dating black women is not a preference. It's a mandate. It's compulsory. It's a requirement. It's a prerequisite. I'm not going to consider dating a woman unless she's black. And of course, her race would not be the deciding factor on whether we get into a relationship or not. I'm not that superficial. But it would be the starting point. When it comes to me, I exclusively date black women, and I exclude other races of women. That's my choice. That's my decision. It's also my right. But it has nothing to do with preference. Before I get to know a woman on that level, it's mandatory that she's black. But I do have a preference within my compulsory dating standard. I have a preference for darker skinned women within the black race. That doesn't mean I don't like other complexions of women, because I do, very much so. It means I like light skinned women, and I also like dark skinned women. But physically, I like darker skinned women a little more. Now that's what you call a preference. So does it make me racist for not dating non-black women? No. By me excluding non-black women, I am in no way disrespecting white or Asian women. I'm not oppressing them or claiming that they are less than. Now, would it be racist if a white man said he only dates white women and doesn't date black women? No, that would not be racist at all. It's natural and expected for people of the same race to be attracted to their own race and exclusively date their own race. There are many women that refuse to date short men. Are they oppressing these short men by not wanting to date them? No. There are many people that won't date somebody who's over a certain size or even under a certain size. Again, these are not preferences. So when people say they have a preference, but they're excluding another group, that's not a preference. So some people may say, okay, well, maybe Kodak Black doesn't have a preference for dating light-skinned women. Maybe he has a mandate for light-skinned women. Maybe he has a prerequisite, a requirement. What's wrong with that? You're allowed to have a mandate and a prerequisite for black women, so why can't he have one for lighter-skinned black women? Well, when you're black and dark-skinned and you refuse to date women your complexion, you exclude dark-skinned black women and you exclusively date light-skinned women, that's self-hate. When you say that you could not date a woman the same complexion as you're making a loud and clear statement that you don't like your complexion. Someone once asked me, why is it okay for me to have a preference for dark-skinned women, but not okay for him to have a preference for light-skinned women? That's a good question. Yes, it is okay for a man to have a preference for light-skinned women, but we must remember the rules of the term preference. Firstly, it's not a preference if you only date light-skinned women. You can't really say that you would date dark-skinned women, but you prefer light-skinned women over dark-skinned women if you purposely, constantly go out of your way to only date light-skinned women. At that point, it becomes evident that it's not actually a preference. That same person also said, so why is it self-hate for me to exclusively date light-skinned women as a dark-skinned man, but not self-hate for a light-skinned man to exclusively date dark-skinned women? But the rules don't change. If a light-skinned man only exclusively dates dark-skinned women and refuses to date light-skinned women, yes, I would say there may be something going on there too. Maybe he has self-hate issues. Maybe he dislikes his own complexion. Maybe it's a deeper psychological issue. Maybe he doesn't want to bring light-skinned children into this world for whichever reason. So yes, there are no double standards here. But you also have to remember that society is not constantly bombarding you with images and messages saying that light-skinned women are ugly and you should get a dark-skinned woman. But it is, however, doing the opposite. So that also plays an important role. Another thing I noticed, some women like to throw around the word colorist if a black man is with a light-skinned woman. I personally don't think that's fair, especially as it's not always the case. I was reading a post online about a black male celebrity that happened to get into a relationship with a light-skinned woman. And there were all of these comments calling him a colorist, although previously he had been in relationships with dark-skinned women. Simply being in a relationship with a light-skinned woman does not make you a colorist. It's all about past dating habits. Yes, if he has only ever dated light-skinned women in the past, then maybe he is a colorist. But if he's dated a mixture of different complexions, then he's probably not. I say probably, because you can still be a colorist and be in a relationship with a dark-skinned woman. It's the same way you can be racist as a white person and still be in a relationship with a black person. So many people are throwing around the word preference to hide and mask their hatred and self-hate. Just be honest about it and be upfront. If you don't like dark-skinned black women or black women, don't call it a preference because it's simply not. And you can apply this rule to anything: food, height, size, lifestyles, personality, anything. Slightly unrelated, but still on the topic of preference, I had someone ask me on social media if I would ever date a trans woman. I said no. They immediately said that my preference was transphobic. So let me clear that up so there's no confusion. My preference has nothing to do with somebody being trans, because a trans person doesn't even meet my basic requirement in dating. In order for me to date someone, they have to first be a woman. And by woman, I mean born a girl with XX chromosomes and have had no surgery or hormone replacement to make them appear to be a woman, born with a uterus and a womb. You really do have to elaborate these days. That's mandatory for me. That's my prerequisite. So that has nothing to do with a preference. I definitely exclude trans people from my dating pool. And I'll also refuse to be made to feel guilty for being a heterosexual man that is strictly attracted to women. So it's important that we know the true meanings of words like preferences, exclude, mandate, prerequisite, things like that. We also have to know whether our dating habits, preferences, and requirements are natural based on our own attraction, or if they've been somehow manipulated by society and the media. Peace, love, and coconut oil.
Hey man, that's racist. Please remember that from now on, brand new never before seen videos, as well as live streams, will only be available on my website, ikyg.com, via a Patreon subscription. ikyg.com is a Black-owned, Black-ran platform, 100% free from censorship. It's the only place where we don't have to worry about what we say and expressing ourselves. Make sure you check out the description and the comment section for important links, as well as information in video form that shows you what benefits you get when you support the site and join my Patreon. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe and be notified every time I upload a video. For exclusive content and perks, check out my Patreon. This is where we have private live streams, group chats, live Q&As, live phone calls, and open topics. This is a safe space where you can interact with other like-minded people, make friends, send each other direct private messages, and so much more without any trolls. And yes, you get to use GIFs and images in the live chats. So what are you waiting for? This is a completely independent website, free from censorship. If you'd like to make a donation towards the site so we can continue to put out the truth without fear of being silenced, then please hit that donation button. It's greatly appreciated. Check out the rest of the site for videos, private and public live streams, find out all the tea, and make sure to utilize the Black Money section of the website. Advertise your business absolutely free to people that look like you, free forever. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at angel_IKYG.